is still the same. A roller coaster, a zero-sum game.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brian Boom Boom Wood, come to you on this lovely Valentine's Day for all you lovers out there. What's going on, guys? It's Brian, and it's the weekly Thursday live stream we got for the recap in the week's hottest comic book releases and CBSIBOLO list, or Be on the Lookout list. As always, I got my co-host with me, Jack DeMeo, a.k.a. Mr. Bolo. Go and introduce yourself.
Man, that's all I could do not to laugh during that intro. What's up, everybody? It's Jack DeMeo here, a.k.a. Mr. Bolo, and we're here on a special Valentine's Day edition to talk to you about new comic book day releases coming out yesterday and what's going on in the market with them already.
Right, so we're going to bring both of us in here. So, appreciate all you guys tuning in here, taking time out from practice and making babies tonight. We'll get you back to that in a little bit, but so before we get into it, busy week, man. I know I've had a busy week. Had a live stream with Comics with Bueller. Had a comic haul video come out today. Jack, you seem to always be busy hustling, slinging sneakers.
Right.
But
always.
So we got people rolling into the chat now. That's always good to see. Let us know how the video is, how the audio is. We will disclose. Jack had a little emergency, so he's rolling off a tablet. So if the audio's a little bit weird, that's where we're coming from. But I think we're good enough to work through this. But so a couple announcements before we get into this week's Bolo list. As always, this show is sponsored by Slabbed Heroes, slabbedheroes.com. If you guys are looking for modern graded books at a guaranteed 9.8 and a price that can't be beat, definitely check Nick out at Slabbed Heroes. He's taken a lot of my money lately because every time he puts something up, I'm like, nah, I don't need that. And then like 3 days later, I'm buying stuff. So I probably ordered, I don't even know how much, probably 12 books. Nothing super amazing, but can't beat $30, $40, $50. Guarantee 9.8. So definitely check out slabbedheroes.com. And before we have one other special announcement, hot and got published today on comicbookinvest.com. We have the comicbookinvest.com partner with Mad Cave Studios, and that is Knights of the Golden Sun #1 variant, right? Jack, you want to talk about this? I'll go ahead and put the information up on the screen.
Yeah. This is something we've known about. We've been working on for about a month now. Something we've all been very super excited about. When we approached Mad Cave about cranking up the presses and doing a special variant for Knights of the Golden Sun #1, we knew that there was going to be a demand for this book. It's been a book that's been hot. We've seen it twice on the Hot 10 list. It was featured on comicbookinvest.com's Indie Spotlight series. It was featured on Simpleman's Comics Weekly Picks right here on this channel. It was featured on the Bolo list. It was featured on the Wednesday one on Comic Book Invest. And like I said, 2-time Hot 10 book. So it was the perfect book for us to really look at and do comicbookinvest.com variant. So when we reached out to Mad Cave and made this happen, shout out to Andy from the Indie Spotlight series for connecting that. We were able to get a really limited print run. So as you guys can see from the graphic on the screen, it's only 250 copies made. 50 copies went to Mad Cave that they'll sell. I don't know if it's either on their website or at conventions. And then 200 went to us. And what we want to really do is be very transparent with our variant program. We want to be really kind of leaders in the market on how companies should do variants. So Brian and myself, we did a live stream way back when talking about kind of the pros and cons of the variant game. And we heard your feedback. We listened, and we really wanted to approach doing variants in a way that was really transparent. So we broke it down for you to let you know we got 150 copies going out that we had on sale starting this morning on comicbookinvest.com. We also have 50 copies that we will use for promo and giveaway and whatnot. And we will begin that, as a matter of fact, tonight. And another thing that we wanted to do is be really transparent about condition. we learned a lot through this process, printing with a black background and things like that, and some of the issues that came. We didn't want to do a pre-release. We didn't want to take your money, and then the books come in, and then we've got to do reprints and hold your money for a period of time. So we kept this under wraps for a month, dropped it today. Nobody knew about it. CBSI writers didn't know about it. This was something that we kept really amongst a tight, small group that had kind of worked on this project. So it's something that I know Brian and myself, Andy, Ben, we've been really excited to kind of unveil to everybody and show the community. And they've been moving quick. So if you haven't gotten a chance to, I would head to comicbookinvest.com. Between the giveaways and what we had already sold at 2 o'clock, we were through 50% of our allocation. So definitely head to comicbookinvest.com and check that out if you haven't gotten a chance to yet.
Right. So I kind of totally messed up the plan because I was really going on the schedule of, hey, let's not do a giveaway this week. But so this hit today, and we do have some 4 giveaways. They're going to be given away between this live stream, Tales from the Flip Side, and podcast that's every Monday at 9:30 p.m. So definitely tune into the Tales from the Flip Side podcast. I'm only plugging that because I'm on there. Otherwise, I'd just be like, don't listen to those guys. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, so Jack brought it up, said, hey, you want to do a giveaway for this? And I was like, sure, man. It's always good to give stuff away. But so Jack wanted to bring it up, and instead of a trivia question, he wanted to do comment-related type contest, correct? As I asked when you're putting water in your mouth.
Yeah, correct. So what we were thinking is not in the live stream comments after the video is posted. Go comment, let us know what you would like to see CBSI do as far as in the future in our variant program. Is there a publisher you'd like to see us work with? Is there artists you'd like to see us work with? Is there an idea or a concept or an homage? Is there something that somebody's not doing that you want to see? And it could be a part of the process. Is there something that you would like to see? We talked about the transparency angle of what we've done. Let us know. So we want to read that feedback. We'll pick out one, and next week we'll go ahead and announce that and get that shipped out to you. Right.
So real quick, before we get into the meat and the potatoes, I just want to start welcoming people that have come into the chat. Comics Bueller, a great guy. Like I said, I feel like I've known him, but never actually really met him, just on YouTube. But we did do an awesome live stream. We had great participation from the chat. Basically, we did a live stream on running a comic book YouTube channel, and we got great feedback on it. So I think we've been discussing it, and I think Bueller and I are talking about maybe doing like a monthly video. So there's more to come on that. We'll have to do some more discussion. We got Dan Piercy, who writes the reading pile for comicbookinvest.com. A whole bunch of the CBSI authors are in here. Andy Tomberlin, of course, you know from Indie Spotlight. But if you have a YouTube channel and you're in the chat, make sure you put the channel name in the chat so people can see it and subscribe to you. I want to give a big shout out to the Comic Cats, which I'm hoping I'm getting the name right, but they've reached out to me, and I started watching some of their videos, and I definitely enjoy their videos. Definitely a different take. I laugh every time I watch their videos. So if you like good comic stuff and with comedic atmosphere, definitely watch it because I enjoy it, and I hope it's meant to be that way. But so as we do every week, we have the Bolo list for the week, right? So it seemed like this was a hot week for incentive variants. Early in the week, a lot of stuff was sold out online. And you started seeing the buzz building up on social media between Twitter, Instagram, all over the place. But we'll get into that, and we'll start with the confirmed first appearances, right? Which Jack, you messed me up with your correction.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I had a couple errors this week, couple last second edits.
Yeah, everyone's like, I don't see Miss Marvel 41. I see, but Unbeatable Squirrel Girl number 41 had a first appearance of Miss Quizler, correct?
Correct. Yeah, like a female Riddler type character. But it's hard to really tell kind of the long-term viability of like a Squirrel Girl villain. It really kind of depends. We know Marvel's really tried to promote Squirrel Girl. We know that the whole game has changed when it comes to the animated films, especially with this week with the announcement of the Batman Ninja Turtles crossover movie happening. So there's definitely potential here. I don't think this is a book you're going to see necessarily short-term gains on, but it's definitely a lower print book, one you might want to pick up and sock in a box somewhere that may pay off down the road.
Right. In my personal opinion, sorry, man, I've been fighting this freaking cold for a week. But I'm not a huge Unbeatable Squirrel Girl fan, but for the people that like it, more power to them. This is one that I'd pass on and then probably be like, dang it, I could have got that book for cheap. If it does raise in value, but I'd rather not pick it up. But
yeah, books like this, I didn't pre-order this book, but this is a book that, like, if I'm in a shop and it's sitting on a shelf, I'll grab it.
Right. So next up, we had Avengers No Road Home #1, right? So this one had, what, 6 different covers for it?
Yeah, yeah.
My favorite, actually, out of all of them was the regular price. Was it the Mark Brooks? It was Hidden Gem.
Right, you and I, we had both talked about that one when they first kind of solicited the cover art. That was one that we both kind of liked.
Yeah, because he had a Hidden Gem, and then he had, what, a 1 in 25 incentive, right? So the Hidden Gem's the one in the bottom left-hand corner, and then the one right next to it on the right to it, is the Mark Brooks 1 in 25 incentive, and then there was a 1 in 50 Adam Hughes that seemed to get a lot of buzz, but my favorite out of all of them was the regular price Hidden Gem. But so you give me your input on this book, and then I actually read it tonight, but
I haven't read it yet. I went through some kind of spoiler stuff, but this book kicks off. We got a new Avengers team. I feel, again, like a broken record where I can talk about my feelings on teams, especially like different inclinations of Avengers teams. I don't think there's any real long-term spec on the first appearance there.
Right.
But
because they change so often.
Right. There's no one specific Avengers team that you're going to, if you go back into history, you're going to be able to get money for that. Aside from when an individual character gets added to the Avengers, like we saw Heat for Spider-Man when Spider-Man was in Civil War. But this book could have been featured on every category on this list. It had reader buzz, you had a first appearance, and there was very heat. So this book kind of checked all boxes. But like I said, as far as long-term from the reader value, I think the best investment would be looking at the different variant art. And Adam Hughes, the Adam Hughes one, which we'll talk about later, seems to be pacing everything.
Right. So I read the book. Of course, it was kind of hard to pay attention to because I had kids yelling. My 5-year-old, he's all hopped up on sugar because he had a Valentine's Day party at school. He's in pre-K, so it was half day. They went to the sitter, and then they had a Valentine's Day party and a birthday party. So he's had cupcakes and candy and cookies and stuff all day. So when I'm sitting there trying to read it, he keeps running up yelling like right into your ear, "Happy Valentine's Day! Happy Val!" But I did read it. I enjoyed it. Of course, it's like the first, hey, let's start building the story up. But I did find like the very last page exciting, and without giving too much away, but it was pretty cool. And I'm interested to see where it goes. But so that brings us.
Well, I want to point one more comment in the chat. Clint pointed out, writer from CBSI, who actually has a brand new column debuting today, Clint's Corner. Talk about some next level type stuff. I really suggest everybody reads it. It's one of those columns that it's taken me like 2 reads to really sit there and digest and think about. But he pointed out that there's been a lot of talk today about whether or not there was a first appearance in this book, the character NYX, the character from Greek mythology. It looks like the consensus is that this is not a first appearance, that this is a Greek mythology character, that it's not going to be a Marvel, say, property, but definitely worth noting that was something that was going around in the community today.
Yeah, but there is a new Avengers team.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. The next up on there for first appearances, you had Justice League Dark #8, right? And this had 2 different covers, the regular, and then was it the Greg Capullo doing the B cover still,
Right.
I believe. But I
Correct.
haven't. I've read two comics this week because it's been so busy, and that was Avengers, and then I read Savage Sword of Conan. But so Lords of Order, first appearance of Lords of Order, right? What can you tell us about them?
Right. For me, nothing yet. This isn't one I'm real familiar with. I know there's a lot of debate between whether or not this is a cameo versus first appearance. I think the market will probably ultimately decide cameo. They've been teasing this appearance for a while. They solicited for the next one as first full appearance. But so I don't know if this one's really going to hold as a true first appearance. It's kind of early to tell that, but people are picking it up because of the debut, first appearance.
Right. But I've only read like the first 3 issues of this, and then it's kind of not that I didn't like it. It's just I haven't had time to pick it up and finish reading it. But I did enjoy the first couple issues. Next, we get into the reader buzz. Before we get into there, just want to stop again and welcome more people that have come into the chat. We got Angry Mr. Bungle. We got Beyond the Blast Doors. Like I always say, if you're a Star Wars fan, definitely check out their YouTube channel because it's all Star Wars, man. And if you're a Star Wars geek, you definitely want to check out their content. Comic Chief, I know he has a YouTube channel. Welcome to the chat. Let's see who else we got in here. Aggressively Rex. We actually have someone from Australia. I mean, all the way, where was that? Mark Snowden from Perth, Australia. That's freaking awesome. So, welcome to the chat, guys. Don't forget also, please hit that like button for us because it makes a huge deal. Helps the channel out. And yeah, man, I'm getting closer to that quest for 4,000 subs. So definitely appreciate everyone's support in that. But moving on into the Bolo list, we'll go into now the Reader Buzz section. And this was the other book that I read this week, and that was Savage Sword of Conan. Of course, Marvel. So just like Marvel, they like to put a bunch of different covers. But a lot of the covers were cool. It's just, I don't like how they do, hey, here's one cover in color, and here's one cover not in color. Because it's not in color, we're going to charge you more money for it. But it was cool to see Kevin Eastman do a Conan cover. But
yeah, and I totally agree. And I think we're clear to talk about variants here since it's not none of the variants appear on the variant buzz section. But yeah, there was some talk even amongst CBSI contributors about, is Marvel overdoing it with 2 ongoing Conan series? But as it was pointed out, they ran 2 congruent series back when the original run came out. And I think it's also clear from future solicits, we're seeing spin-off characters, we're seeing mini-series. Marvel is all in on Conan, in the Conan universe. I would liken this very, very much, and I think we talked to when Marvel acquired the Star Wars rights, that I think that they are really trying to build a universe here outside of the typical Marvel connection.
We got a new sub in Comic Sam, and we might have lost Jack. But
hey,
there you're back.
Got me.
You're back,
man.
You sneaky
All
Valentine's
right,
Day, you.
But
it's good. We'll roll with it, man. It's Valentine's. Everyone's like FaceTiming, and so bandwidth is down. But so yeah, my favorite course would be the regular Alex Ross cover, and I always like Raza art, but
right. I think the Raza is probably like the best art variant. But I agree with you. I think that there's a coolness to the Eastman. I don't particularly like the art, but I put it in the category of when we talked about the IDW Marvel Spider-Man book.
Right.
That Eastman did a variant. It's unique to get a guy who's so synonymous with a brand like Ninja Turtles to do a variant outside of what you're used to seeing him as.
Right. So yeah, I did enjoy the story. Got Conan on a pirate ship. Well, slave trading ship. I won't say pirate ship, but it had some very Pirates of the Caribbean features to it. But it was still a great story. I mean, if you like Conan, you'll definitely like it. Was it Jerry Dugan that's writing it?
Yeah.
So I like that. Of course, I've been loving Jason Aaron's Conan, and definitely I'll add this to my pull list for sure. But is it? I forget. Is this like a is this like a 6-issue mini or is this an ongoing? Because I heard something like 6 tales or something like that.
Yeah, that I'm actually not sure of.
But so yeah, definitely check. I enjoyed. If you guys in the chat have read the book, let us know your thoughts. Of course, without spoiling, I guess you could say. But next one on the Reader Buzz, and this is always, if you're a fan of Ed Brubaker, you're definitely gonna want to pick this book up. But so Criminal number 2, right? And this picks up from, what was it, the 2006 Criminal that Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips worked on, and it was originally released under Marvel Icon or something like that, right?
Correct.
But I haven't read Criminal number 1 yet. I haven't even picked it up. I need to pick it up. But of course, they worked on Kill or Be Killed right before this, and that was like one of my favorite Image titles. But,
Yep.
okay.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people were like me with this one, where I was slow on Criminal. I think I heard a lot of people talk about Criminal with the first volume and coming into volume 2. It is a book that I think multiple people reached out to me multiple weeks, asked, well, why isn't Criminal on the Bolo list? And it kind of took time to build that buzz before it got to a point that the buzz is undeniable. And even to myself, where I've gone out, I want to grab the trade. I went and grabbed issue 2, issue 1, the second print, and I noted it on the Bolo list that, if you missed issue 1, they released the second print on Wednesday as well. So I went out and grabbed those myself. It's a great time to get caught up, and I feel like we're going to talk about this later on, and we talk about it every week. But it's the age of adaptation. Hollywood is mining these comic properties for IP, and I think that this is a book that's primed for that.
Right. But yeah, I definitely look to catch up on it. I caught on to the original Criminal late. In fact, I forget what it was. I was watching some movie or TV show, and it wasn't really like a comic show, but within it, the guy was suggesting to like his girlfriend or whatever to read Criminal from Ed Brubaker. But I don't remember what movie or TV show that was, and making no freaking sense. So I'm just gonna move on. But excuse me. So next in the Reader Buzz, of course, I think anything that new comes out from Antarctic Press, people jump on. But this was kind of exciting because Exciting Comics number 1, right? Antarctic Press. When there's some cover art or cover, I forget what, I saw something going on about it, but
so they released this book in kind of a unique way where, there was a multitude of covers, but the print runs on the cover and the scarcity and rarity of the individual covers wasn't truly known. As soon as dealers received their copies, word kind of got out. People started kind of getting hip to the idea that the Speedway cover, the cover that you see that features the race cars, was going to be the lowest printed of the covers. And originally, this was on the Variant Buzz section with just that cover.
Right.
As word kind of got out that all of the covers were going to be printed at different levels, and that there was some discrepancy about what was the rarity of certain books, it looked like more of these books were going to pop. So I kind of held back, decided to put all covers on the Reader Buzz section. It's also an interesting concept. We're seeing more and more of these kind of like common law properties where, these books that were popular in the golden age are kind of getting new life in the modern era. But after the release of the book, then Antarctic Press put out a tweet that broke down the print run, which I really liked that because it stops dealers from being able to, say, mark up certain books on release day. Most dealers put the books out, and we got reports of books being out for cover price, so it makes it more like a chase. But we actually had CBSI, comicbookinvest.com writer Josias. He was the one who put on the Comic Book Invest G Plus page. He put the tweet from Antarctic Press that broke down that we got real quick. It's just about a 7K print run. You've got the Madam Mask cover with a 4K print, the Terror Returns cover, which is that Dark Knights homage with a 1K print. You've got the Sketch with a 500 copy print. You've got the Blackjack cover with a 600 copy print. You've got the Hypno Heroines cover with 500 copies, and the Speedway cover with just about 5% of the print run at 300 copies, which is why you're seeing that spike to as high as $70 right now on eBay.
Right. So my full disclosure is, I haven't read it. I'll probably read it online digitally. It's just I'm not big on Antarctic Press right now because it seems like they're 2019's Black Mask, or every title they come out that's new is hot because of Rags and Punchline, and people are just buying up. I'm not saying that the comics aren't good. It's just I kind of like makes me hesitant because Antarctic Press isn't new. They've been around for a while. So why all the popularity in their titles now? Because title we're getting ready to talk about here in a little bit was the same way I was all excited about. But once I saw it, I was like, I'll pick up a copy, but I'm like, But that's just me. The
one thing I'll say, though, about this is, and I don't disagree with you, as far as the way speculators move in packs. They kind of have habits. And when you get a hit, you tend to ride that hit till it fails. But I have to give them credit just on concept. I'm a retail guy. So I look at this and I say, man, you guys came up with a creative program that caught people off guard, got people's attention, has people talking, and it's quality art and some cool homage covers. And we've talked about this before, like with the Vault Comics later printings. Those homages are low-hanging fruit. It's a great way to get people to kind of like care about the book you're releasing just based off the art. So I got to give them credit at least on the gimmick alone of doing something that was, move the market at least.
And yeah, I mean, I do like that they pulled a Dynamite Publishing and brought back a Golden Age title. Because usually you see Dynamite doing that a lot.
Right.
But next, moving on into, God of Badman #1. This one, I couldn't find it. I tried to order it. It wasn't at my LCS, but it did look interesting. I did have it in my weekly picks. So evidently there was buzz because I couldn't find it to pick up. I didn't look too hard, but my normal couple online places and it was sold out. But so what do you hear about this from Reader Buzz?
This one had a good bit of reader buzz. It sold out kind of quickly at retail. If you look at sales, it looks like cover A is actually outpacing cover B by a few dollars. It's cover B is selling for about $10 ship. Cover A is getting $13, $14 ship. It is a 4-issue miniseries. So whenever you're dealing with miniseries, you always got to watch out. You're not gonna have you got a shorter shelf life. I don't expect Heat to continue with this book because of that. I could be wrong, but we've seen kind of like how you talked about the speculator-driven jumping on indie #1s. Having said that, while I'll say the synopsis of this book is complicated, it's one of the more detailed synopsises you'll read. It does have that cinematic feel. It does have that type of IP that sounds like something that movie studios would go for. You have a writer who's got a tumor, and he meets with an ex-con or a inmate who convinces him that the tumor is the origin of God.
Yeah.
In reality, it's a data bullet put in his brain by the inmate that gives him he's only got 7 days to live. So while that's complicated, and I don't really know where that's going to go or how he even got there. I have so many questions even about that synopsis. It does sound like the premise to a movie. It interests me enough to check out and want to read. And I think that was kind of the gist for a lot of indie readers today.
Right. Yeah, I think that's what's intrigued me is when I read the synopsis and the tumor being the origin of God. I was like, that's kind of interesting. That reminds me of something like, what was the Leonardo movie where He was the one that ended up being crazy or whatever. I forget. It's late. But God of Bad, man. Next up we had this was the other title I was talking about where I was like really excited about it, and then I kind of withdrew when I saw I'm not trying to hate on Antarctic Press. It's just I'm hesitant because I don't want to get something. If I can't get it for cover right now, I don't want to get something that is inflated for a reason that's beyond what it should be. Does that make sense? But
Totally.
I love World War II comics, and this looked like a really interesting book.
So
if I can find it, I'm gonna pick it up. But go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to piggyback on what you said. And this is just, it's kind of off topic of the Bolo list, but more of a speculation strategy. I totally agree with you. I think a lot of times we catch flack when we put these types of lists out, like whether it's the Bolo list or the Hot 10. And, you know, we get kind of like thrown heat at, like, I'm advocating you to buy at its high market value. That's not what I'm saying. I totally agree with you. I don't think that going out right now and grabbing this book on eBay for $15 or $20 is probably a sound investment. The reality of most of these indie books is if you can grab them for cover price and you can flip them now and you can make some money, that's great. If you want to invest in it, you should be buying it at cover price. And the reality is most of these dip back once the heat of the #1 issue comes down. Even a super hot book like Knights of the Golden Sun, it took 4 or 5 issues before #1 dropped, but it still dropped somewhat from its high point. So I definitely advocate if you like an indie book and you strike out on release date, just be patient, give it time, pay attention to the market. It's all ups and downs. And if you can catch it at a low point, you can jump back in on it later before any sort of, movie news type thing happens. And this is definitely another one where you look at and it's adaptable because it's like you said, it's a World War II story. But then you've also got the horror background. And we talked about every week the popularity of, excuse me.
I'm passing it on to you.
Right. Both horror movies and horror comics. Just the horror genre right now is hot. It's inexpensive to produce and it's popular. And you don't need to have big names attached to a project. So in this story, you have 2 Japanese soldiers trying to make it through a swamp during World War II, and their sins of their less honorable comrade are kind of hanging over their heads. So you don't know whether this is something that we're talking mystical or, demons. It's called The Devils. So I think there's definitely going to be some morality.
Not saying I haven't checked the prices since what I was looking for earlier, but next book that we had coming up, and this is one that as soon as I saw it, it like instantly took me back to my childhood watching the freaking cartoon. But that was Wonder Twins #1, right? Super Friends #7, right? That has the first appearance of Wonder Twins. But
correct.
I picked this up, haven't had a chance to read it yet. What besides? Did you hear anything other reader buzz besides the pure nostalgia factor of it?
I think the nostalgia drove most of the reader buzz here. A lot of people grew up on Wonder Twins and Hanna-Barbera. I think that Hanna-Barbera is mostly the driving factor here. If you're not familiar, the Wonder Twins debuted on the Super Friends cartoon in the 70s. They were actually the Hanna-Barbera property that was kind of added in to go with all of the DC Comics properties, your traditional Batman, Superman, Aquaman, etc. This book, there's some interesting kind of factors on this book. It's actually written by Mark Russell, who's big in the news today because his DC Comics book, Second Coming, was canceled. It has some serious religious, I don't even want to say overtones. It's a religious story, features Jesus. So he was big in the news today, but he's known for writing Scooby Apocalypse, which has gotten a lot of attention and been considered by many to be a very good read. So it was kind of a natural fit for him to go and stay within kind of a Hanna-Barbera property, but move into a more DC Comics timeline-driven story. And it's under the Wonder imprint, which we've talked about. DC's putting a lot of money into. It's kind of Brian Michael Bendis's playground. So I think that I don't expect any sort of short-term heat with this. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's a nostalgia factor buy for most. But I do think that there's a good chance that there's plans for DC with Wonder Twins. I know that Brian Michael Bendis said once on Twitter that when he was discussing this whole program with DC, the one thing he said he wanted was Wonder Twins involved. So, and if you take that for what it's worth, I would say that there's probably going to be more from Wonder Twins going forward.
Right. So I picked up the B cover for it just because. Not a huge fan of Dustin. I don't know how to say his last name right, but some of his covers I do really like. So I picked up the B cover for that, and then I'm looking forward to reading it when I find the time to do so. So we did have some other people pop in the chat. Comic Tom, of course, popped in the chat. We got Discovery Bay Comics. Discovery Bay Comics, if you're not familiar with him, make sure you check out his channel. He does a freaking daily video, which is freaking grinding. I don't know how he does it, but a daily video of what's on today with Discovery Bay, and it basically shows, hey, this is what's coming on YouTube in the comic community. And I do want to cover up a comment that was, I think it was Angry Mr. Bungle said, right? He's talking about, when you were talking about spec, he said, with 8 billion streaming services existing or upcoming, all of them optioning just about any comic that's made, everything is spec nowadays. I think he brings up a good point. People are rabid they hear that word option, man, and people are tweeting, Facebooking, Instagramming. This book got optioned, and next thing you know, people are out buying them up. When I say people, comic book invest, we do the same thing, but I mean, you're just putting the news out there. It's up to the buyer. But yeah, I get what he's saying, and it's crazy how vicious the cycle is especially with the word option in a comic book. But that's just comics, I guess. That's the name of the game.
And I want to send a couple, like you said in the comments. We've also got Miliano from CBSI. Want to send a shout out, guys. We get hit up all the time about merchandise. We have shirts for sale, CBSISwag.com. Emiliano and Scott do a great job with that, and just wanted to go ahead and shout them out and let everybody know. We talked about them a couple weeks back, but definitely want to take the opportunity to go ahead and remind everybody. And also, you mentioned Discovery Bay. In what I do in formulating the Bolo list, it comes from what I see on social media. Discovery Bay Comics has become an everyday part of my routine. It's checking that video out. I've begun to watch so many more content producers than I ever would have had I not been exposed to them through that. So I advocate that to everybody in the community. Like, I'm Team CBSI, Team Simplemans, absolutely. But check out Discovery Bay and let him show you what else is out there, because there's so much comics on YouTube.
Definitely. And like I said before, if you're in the chat and you have a YouTube channel, make sure you put your channel name in the chat so other people can see it and sub you guys up. But we're going to move into the variant buzz, and which we kind of touched on the title before, but not the actual variant. This is the Avengers No Road Home. This is the 1 in 50 incentive variant. This is the Adam Hughes, correct? So when the art first popped, you saw this, just like I said, and it spread across social media. Everyone was sharing this cover, and I was kind of like, but what did you think about this cover? And then have you seen how it's performing so far after 2 days after release?
Yeah. So, my personal feeling was kind of, I agree with you. It's kind of, it's a nice cover, but my Adam Hughes standard is so high. But I think the reason why this book has been successful, because right now our last 3 sales recorded today were 73, 82, and 74. And remember, this is a 1 in 50 variant. So if you were purchasing it at ratio, you were purchasing it for $50. So you're already seeing around a 50% return. But I think that the reason why this book has been successful is a few different things. Number one, we've gotten buzz. As I said, Avengers No Road Home could fit into all 3 categories on the Bolo list. So the book in and of itself is popular. It's a high ratio Hughes, being that it's a 1 in 50. And if you really think about the last several high ratio Hugheses that have come out, they all have one thing in common, and that they've all been attached to #1 books with huge print runs that have had a large number of store variants, that have had store variant dealers holding excessive amounts of copies of the high ratio variant and kind of depressing the prices on these books. You didn't see that with this one. So while it may not be the best Adam Hughes we've ever seen, it's a better Adam Hughes than some of the recent releases that have kind of been panned, some of his Superman stuff. And we're going to talk about streaming services again. Disney has already announced the Vision and Scarlet Witch Disney Plus TV show, which I think will draw more attention to Scarlet Witch and some of these B characters that Marvel's got that maybe were already featured in movies but didn't quite pop. A lot of these variants, there's a bunch of beautiful Scarlet Witch variants out there from some amazing artists. But I think that this one will hold up with those.
Right. So we were kind of discussing this on the Tales from the Flip Side this past Monday night. And for me, his A-Force variant that he had Scarlet Witch on the cover is probably my favorite he's done for Scarlet Witch. But he's got a following, he's got fans, and for all the reasons you said, and then the fans behind him, this cover will most likely do well. But it's not for me. The next on the variant buzz, this was actually my favorite variant of this week. There was one that was kind of close to it, which we're going to get on further. But the Zafino Dead Man Logan, and apparently I definitely wasn't the only one that thought so, because this one, as soon as the comics for this week were released online, they sold out real quick. And it was what, a 1 in 25, I think it was, for this.
Right, 1 in 25. So yeah, I've got mixed emotions about this book in general. First off, as far as the cover art, I love it. I agree with what you said. I think that it was probably one of the most stunning variants released. It's very much in the vein of Savino's Immortal Hulk #2 variant, which I think is one of the reasons why this book drew some heat, in that that book is very prevalent in the market right now. We see it on the Hot 10 list. First appearance of Dr. Fry. It's being traded a lot. People are very familiar with the artist and that work. So it doesn't surprise me that this popped. Where I say I've got mixed emotions is when you look at the last three sales, we have 83, 76, and 73.
Wow.
It shows a downward trend, but I wouldn't think that the book's not really trending downward. You're seeing people who are putting the book up at the lowest prices. They're selling quickly. I think the book is more naturally in the 80s to 90. So you're looking at well above ratio. So it's a big home run. Where I say I have mixed emotions about this book is I don't want to say certainly wouldn't, but I'd be very careful advocating somebody purchasing this book right now at those prices for two reasons. Number one, this book was a pre-sale at around $150 on eBay. Now, nobody bought it, but people were out there trying to push this book for that. I've said on this show before that I'm all about pushing the price. And what I mean by pushing the price is if you're the only one listing a book, like we talked about the last 2 weeks, the long-term spec of the week, the G.I. Joe Sierra Muerte and the Q Conflict Star Trek, where you're looking on eBay, you're seeing one copy, if that. By all means, you should, every time that book gets listed, it should go up in price because it gets rare on the market. This is a 125 on a book that isn't going to be super low printed. And I know from yesterday, looking on Instagram, I saw several people that we follow from their LCS. So I don't know that this is going to be something that is going to be really limited and you're not going to see on the market. We see a comment from Probe 186 saying that undercutters are so frustrating, but I think that that's what you're going to end up getting, because if somebody went and grabbed 5 copies and even if they paid $25 each and their expected return on this is a certain amount, they're going to want to make sure they get that and get their money. And that's where you can kind of run into issues if you're trying to maximize the value on your one book. So I think that some of the initial demand was a little bit fabricated, kind of pushed, people kind of being hopeful that the market would bear what it would bear. And then some of it now I think we're seeing kind of the downward movement due to the fact that the book isn't as rare as you think it is, and several people have multiple copies because of that. But it's beautiful cover art. It's a black cover. I do think it will hold up over time, but it's very volatile.
Right. And then Clint stole my thunder, but it is one that, if you look at it from a speculator point of view, if you can get that graded at a 9.8, it's going to be good to have, because that black cover on it will make it hard to get in a high grade. But yeah, so Dead Man Logan, and next up, after like Dead Man Logan, when I first did weekly picks, I was like, man, that's my pick of my week. But this cover, Captain Marvel, the more I started looking at it throughout the week, man, and then especially after release, one, I'm mad I didn't get one, and then two, the more I like this cover as I look at it. But other people seem to think so too, because I've seen it's gaining popularity, and it's a black cover also, so it's gonna be another one hard to get without a bunch of spine ticks, color rub with that crappy Marvel paper and stuff like that. But so fill us more in on the variant buzz on this title.
Right. So this is another one. From the get-go, I had all three of these books on the variant buzz. They were all three talked about for a couple weeks. They were the first three I threw on the variant buzz list. They sat there. They didn't move. Having said that, I would say that this one, this is by Bolo, is probably the least buzz of the three. I think your assessment is right. I think it people slept on it. It snuck up on people. It's got kind of a Star Wars vibe. And the reason I make that comparison, it looks very similar to some of the like
Casada.
Casada, the Ray variant that hit. It's kind of got that feel to it. As we mentioned with the Dead Man Logan, you've got the black cover, so you're going to have 9.8 issues. We've seen the potential of Captain Marvel variants, because there's several Captain Marvel variants in the market that command multiple hundreds of dollars. So we already know that that's doable. And we're in a beautiful situation where we know we've got a movie coming up that's getting great reviews. So I think that for those reasons, that's kind of my favorite book on this list. On top of that, when you look at the sales right now, I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that book is actually outselling the other two. It has one of the more variable prices, because the last book that sold for like 70 something, but the book before it sold for 100. And I think, again, it's a situation where there's some variances in condition of people listing the book. But anybody that's sitting with a 9.8, who's sitting with a 9.6 quality book, they're charging $100. So, I think that this is going to be a solid $100 book over the next week, and we could see this trend upwards even higher.
Right. Yeah, I agree with everything you said. It's like simple, but there's something about it that just kind of pops. I think it's the black and then the color tone for me. But yeah, I still think it's a great book. And like you said, feeding into the movie about to come out, it's got media buzz all over it. But moving into the next one, we had the Batman, the Federici, right? The Batman Last Cover B. Great cover. I will say, as of this morning, I haven't checked this evening, but it was still available on Midtown. MidtownComics.com for cover. I think they still had it limited one per person, but it was there. But Federici, man, he's been doing some great covers. But I hope it's a he, right?
I think so. So yes, what you just said. It's starting to sell out. It's limited. You're starting to see it move towards. I was actually surprised to see it starting to move towards $10 on eBay. You're seeing it briskly sell at $4 or $5 plus $4 or $5 shipping. People are having no problem paying $8, $9 for this book. I think Federici might be one of those next up type of guys. These kind of Italian painter style artists have been hot. If Mattina continues to fall, there's going to be a void there. We've seen Perillo step up. I think that he could definitely be one of those next ups. And then again, it's a good timing thing. Batman Who Laughs is hot regardless. But he's in the news recently because it was announced yesterday that DC's big new initiative this year is going to be the Year of the Villain. And on May 1st, they're going to release a 25-cent issue, very similar to their, a DC United or whatever it was called, book that they did. It's going to be focused on the villains. And if you look at the cover, it looks like there's Bane, there's some typical, but Batman Who Laughs is front and center. So I think that there's long-term plans for Batman Who Laughs. I'll also throw out there, I went out and made some purchases myself and grabbed more copies of the Justice League Annual #1. I put it on the Instagram as a bolo because the biggest character on that advertisement is that chicken. We had trouble saying her name a couple weeks ago, but Perpetua.
Oh, yeah.
And she's by far the biggest character, has the biggest presence. When you read the articles, that's what they're talking about, is that moment, that Justice League Annual moment is what kicked off this whole event that we're going to be getting into. So I think I would definitely advocate a major bolo on that book. And also, it's good to note on that May 1st book that there's going to be an Art Germ Cheetah variant that already has a lot of variant buzz. People are talking about it. Some negative, but a lot positive.
I hate that. That covers. Yeah.
That's a love it or hate it cover.
Yeah.
So, I think that this is another one very similar to the Captain Marvel 2, where it's a good time to be in the Batman Who Laughs business.
Yeah. The Cheetah Art Germ is like something like Zoolander to me. Merman Dad. But anyway.
We got Dan Piercy in the chat said he'll wait to sell the set. I know that Russ Bright, who does the Hot 10 Comics video from Milgy Comics, he's been buying extra copies to stash away to put sets together. So I think there's going to be a lot of that where people are going to be doing that with Batman Who Laughs as well.
Right. And then what? I got that other Batman Who Laughs title that's coming out, right?
The Grim Knight.
Yes. I kept wanting to say Brimstone, but yeah.
A lot of buzz on that. Definitely a lot of buzz on that. Issue #1 is going to be tough because you're going to see a lot of store variants, so the print run is going to be huge. But that's definitely going to be a series to keep an eye on. And just like how we said, I think that I wish I would have gone. And luckily, most of the books are still cover price. I'm going to try to go back and stock copies to go put some sets together. I think the Grim Knight would be another one to do that with.
Right. So next in the variant buzz, we had the Art Germ Wonder Woman 64, right? 64? Yeah.
Correct.
So this, or if you watch my weekly picks when I first had it in there, I had Wonder Twins or for the title of this book, but I ended up cutting that out. But I actually like this cover. I know if you do want a 9/8 for it, I will say Slabbed Heroes has 9/8, and he has opportunities for CGC Signature Series 9/8 on that. So hit up Slabbed Heroes, and he'll hook you up. But this is one of the better Art Germ covers I liked. I like how they do the landscape covers on some of these, especially with the B variants. But what's your take on this?
I like it. My mind isn't made up on the landscape variants yet. I would like to hear from the community in the chat how you guys feel about landscape variants. It seems that they've gotten some buzz and popularity in recent weeks, and we're seeing to more and more DC is going to some of these landscape style. But I'm a fan of uniformity. I've seen a lot of people displaying the DC cover Bs on their wall, things like that. So that part of it throws me off a little bit. But I think it's another one where it's a classic Wonder Woman cover. I think it's got that. I think this is going to become a thing. It's got that Art Germ fatigue to it, where people are just kind of worn down on art a bit. But I don't have a bad thing to say about the cover.
Yeah, talking about the landscape variants for a second. One of the landscape variants I did like was when Darwin Cook did a lot of variants for DC for like Masters of the Universe, Harley Quinn, and they were all landscape. But those are ones that kind of before those I was kind of turned off by myself. But the Darwin Cook variants he did for DC were definitely ones that I liked, and I picked up a few of those. I've actually been looking for the Masters of the Universe one in 9/8 for a price I'm willing to pay, but. And then, of course, the next one is everyone's favorite artist of feet. And that's the Superman #8, the Rob Liefeld variant.
Yeah. So this was one of my favorite books to get to put on this list because I knew this would draw controversy.
I'm on a cloud. Look at me, I'm on a cloud.
So I think the best kind of example of why this book is on this list is to talk about, I'll talk about one of our partners, Comic Tom, who was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he's still watching or not, but Comic Tom did a live stream with Bueller this week, and Bueller shared some books that he had purchased this week, and he talked about this book. And, you know, he said he was one of those books where it was so bad it was good. It was like a good, bad horror movie. I don't want to like knock the art. Because I've said this before, I'm a 80s baby child of the 90s. I grew up on the Image era and Rob Liefeld and X-Men and New Mutant and X-Force. So I'm a Rob Liefeld fan. I will always be a Rob Liefeld fan. But when Tom and Bueller were discussing this topic on their live stream, the chat lit up with people defending Liefeld, who were taking kind of like exception to the way they were talking about his art. And I think that that's the point, is no matter what side of the table you sit on with Rob Liefeld, he's a polarizing character. He's always going to get people talking. And this was kind of a monumental thing. You're used to seeing him with Marvel. You're used to seeing him synonymous with certain characters. He himself called this cover a bucket list item. And I think that it's sort of in the vein of the Eastman Conan or the Eastman Spider-Gwen Spider-Man cover, where regardless of how you feel about the art, it's kind of a cool departure from a popular artist's typical kind of medium.
Right. I'm not a fan of it. Let's leave it at that. But just like Comic Chief said, the cover A has a sick John Kent on the cover, but I see why people pick it up, and I see why people are Liefeld fans. I'm on the fence. Some things I like, some things I don't like about him, but it's comics. But I did actually like the next one, which was the Lupacchino Supergirl. A lot of her covers, I think, get lost in the wash sometimes. Some are like really, really good, and then some are just kind of like not bad, but they don't stand out against some other variant covers. But Supergirl title. So I also heard that Superman, the DC Superman movies, they got canned because DC's going to start concentrating more on Supergirl. So some of those covers that I'm not speculating, but some of those covers might at some point get hot, depending on what the storylines are and stuff like that. But what'd you think about the Lupacchino Supergirl variant?
So this was one that I actually had on the list and then took off the list and then added back on the list. It's probably had the most variants during the week. I couldn't really make my mind up. It was talked about. It sold out at Midtown, but I don't know that it was one where it had like a real buzz, or if the buzz was because it sold out and caught people off guard. And, you know, there was like a comment this week on the Instagram. Somebody said, well, is the list just books that sell out at Midtown? And I said, well, no, because several of these books are still available at Midtown, as we just talked about with the Batman Who Laughs. But when a book sells out, that does tend to drive buzz. So this book caught attention from a lot of people because it sold out. So then the question becomes, well, why did it sell out? Well, you know, I do think, like you said, that Supergirl gets overlooked. I do think DC has big plans for Supergirl. They've already proven that the character is viable through the television show on the CW. I think they've had issues with Superman, and Supergirl, while she's a very similar character, is a little bit more complex than Superman, so allows them to do a little bit more. And I think with this cover, you have an artist who's popular, Manuela Lupacchino. One of those artists that like wants to break out so bad, wants to be an A-level secondary market artist, and just kind of continues to hover at that just about their level. If anything, maybe there's too many covers out there. But another thing that I notice about this cover is I think makes this cover stand out is that big cape. It's very reminiscent to me of like a McFarlane Batman or McFarlane.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Right when you mentioned cape, I was like, oh yeah. Yeah,
it's different. And so when I was looking at this cover for the longest time, like I like this cover, but I can't figure out why.
It's like she took the whole ballroom curtain for that cape.
Yeah. So it's just something different. I think it's a departure from the typical over-sexualized Supergirl covers that tend to be popular. So I like this one, and I agree with you. This is another one that, like, you know, when the character gets a bigger fan base when she hits movies, which I think all the CW characters, Green Arrow, we still haven't seen a good Flash. When all of those characters get their due on the big screen, they'll be even hotter than they were from the CW shows. And there's a lot of underpriced Supergirl variants. There's a lot of great Supergirl books to go back and grab.
So it almost, to me, also looks like it's kind of like in the middle range of connecting variants. You know, especially with standing on the letters, or it looks like it's like the middle part of a connecting variant set to me. But so yeah, that ends us up with the variant buzz. And I'm trying to deal with the congestion, but we got a bunch of people still participating in the chat. Love that. Giselle Perez. He was one of the ones that won one of the last giveaways. Got a Morello Tunes. I know Comic Book Gallery was asking about what is Batman Who Laughs Grim Knight. I did put a link in the chat that might help out, but yeah. That was your comment. I was like, yeah. Ezra Miller Flash was like Corky from that TV show.
Right. I love the CW network shows.
Yeah.
I absolutely love them. I don't have a bad thing to say about the CW network shows. Yeah. I just think they're fun. But
the Justice League movie Flash wasn't very.
No, if it was me, I would have just took Grant Gustafson, Stephen Amell, and thrown them in the Justice League movie.
Yeah, I agree. So, real quick, we're gonna get into your long-term play. I do not have graphics for the later printings, but okay. If you want to talk about it, and then from there we'll go into the little addition you added this week to this week's Bolo as well.
Okay. Yeah. So this week's long-term play. And remember, the key is long-term play. I've joked about this. I've gotten kind of lucky the last 2 weeks. If you've been following the long-term pick of the week, the last two books are both $100 books right now on eBay already. So they weren't really long-term plays. They ended up being very excellent short-term plays. But this book right here is a prime example of a good long-term play. All three of these books, really. We saw a comment earlier mentioned saying that Comic Book Invest should do an article on series that get popular because of the writing. And we've talked about it on a weekly basis. That's where we're at with Immortal Hulk. I think it's a great idea. Three that come to mind recently that I have bought heavily, whether it's a key issue or not, is Donny Cates' Thanos run, Donny Cates' Venom run, and now this Immortal Hulk run. And when I say heavily, I mean I'm not just buying, like I said, the key issues. I'm buying the filler issues. I'm buying the later printings. I'm real bullish on this series. I think that people are going to continue to collect this. I think if you've looked at the way that, say, those first two series that I mentioned have gone, it's like the later printings with Thanos, they ended up getting dropped off and they were on TFAW and Midtown's Black Friday sale list. They end up selling out, and now you're starting to see gradual rises again in the market. And I think that that's kind of what I expected with Immortal Hulk. But if you look on eBay right now, you're already seeing issue 2, the third appearance, or the third print, the first appearance of Dr. Fry, already commanding as much as $10 already. These later printings are lower printed. They feature new art. I think it's interior art, but it's still new cover art, which people complain about the interior art, using those as the cover. You'll never hear that from me, because I remember when we were doing 7 printings with just 7 different colored bars on them, which is just completely uninteresting. So I have not met or spoke to a single person who's had a bad thing to say about Immortal Hulk. I have to believe that Marvel is hearing this. I think Immortal Hulk, there's a very good chance is here to stay. And I think that whether or not you were able to catch up for first printings or not, jumping on second, third, fourth, fifth, I don't care what printings is a good idea. Put together mixed printing sets however you can. If you're at the LCS and you see random issues, grab them. You're starting to see several of these random issues hit $10, $15. The earlier issues, like issue 3 and 4, are starting to go even higher than that. So I think that this is a series where you're looking at some real spec gold. And a lot of dealers aren't aware. A lot of dealers get too key issue focused. So there's a lot of these kind of in-between issues sitting on retail shelves out there that need to be liberated.
Yeah, this is one I've been enjoying so much that it's one of the ones that I've been buying the floppies, but I won't buy the trades. But when it comes out with like the omnibus for it, I'll pick up the omnibus to use as the story's good enough to go back and read. That's what I did with Kill or Be Killed. I went back and bought the trades after buying all the floppies. Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run is one that I bought all his omnibus, but definitely been enjoying this story way better than Totally Awesome Hulk. But so that's his long-term play, and hopefully it works out like your last couple. Good Lord.
Yeah, I'd say this one is more of a solid long-term play.
But so Jack hit us with something new this week in addition to the CBSIBOLO, and that is as Mel would say, perfect Segoo, talking about omnibuses, but we got the trade report, which is new for this week, right?
Correct.
So go ahead. I'm going to pull up the graphics.
Yeah, so this was something I kind of thought about when I'm always reviewing, and Brian, I know you know about this, you're reviewing kind of the products being released in a given week. You're looking at previews, you're looking at different lists, and they always highlight non-comic book items. I've talked about Funko Pops in previous weeks. But every week, new trades are released. And at the end of the day, whether you're speculating or investing in comics, reading comics is important. It will make you a better investor. It'll make you a better speculator. It will give you the enjoyment that will get you through the time when you are making bad investments. And we kind of have always talked about more reading content. And I thought, well, what a great way to let people know, there's a lot of people out there talking about what new books are coming out and not a lot of people talking about what trades are hitting stores. So we're talking about Immortal Hulk right now. You talk about a Segoo. And the first one on the list here we have under hot runs is Immortal Hulk Volume 2. So I think this is like issues 6 through 10 or something like that. So, if you were behind on Immortal Hulk and you're trying to catch up, this is a great opportunity to jump in right now, and you can go pick up. You can go to your LCS right now and pick up Volume 1 and Volume 2 and get caught up.
I'm yelling at Clint in the chat right now. But he keeps putting in the chat when you're talking something that I'm going to say. But yeah, he's talking about the new coming issue of Immortal Hulk, the cover on there that has like the moon with Hulk's face in the moon and the guy sitting in the cemetery. But yeah, that is a great cover. Alex Ross has been killing on the covers. So one thing Comic Cats kind of mentioned about Civil War II and Avengers No Road Home. No Road Home, this issue 1 that came out this week, has Bruce Banner, Hulk, talking to Hawkeye. It's pretty much saying, you can come, but don't let anyone leave you alone with me because you freaking killed me. I mean, paraphrasing, of course, but yeah. That was good. But Mortal Hulk number 2, trade paperback, and then you had it in there as well as the Mr. Miracle. Now, this is one that got really hot, right? A lot of people hate on Tom King with Batman writing, but they love some Mr. Miracle.
Well, and this is a prime example of a book that's great in trade paperback form. And this book is an example of why I wanted to make this list. Because if you missed out on the opportunity to get in on Mr. Miracle when issue 1 came out, or you're like me, you can't help but sell every copy that you've got if it gets hot. Now is your opportunity to get to sit down and read this story. So you're talking about Eisner's. This thing won every award there is to win. People have mixed emotions about Tom King, but this is Tom King on his best. In my opinion, Tom King does a great job elevating B characters, making them, uniquely relevant. And we saw it with Vision. We saw it with Mr. Miracle. And one thing he gets no credit for, I love the Grayson series and what he did, the different take on Nightwing that he gave us. But that's an absolute prime example of a book that a lot of people missed when they came out, and would be expensive to go grab back issues. I think it's like $25 cover price. You get 12 issues in the book. So I'm definitely going to pick it up myself.
Right. Yeah, Probe in the chat says, how about Batman White Knight? First Mary Andrews is getting hot. Also, if you're looking for trades, I will tell you one of the best places I find them, of course, is Amazon, but then InStockTrades.com. They usually have good prices on. And also, I made a video about it, but that Hoopla app for mobile iPads, tablets, phones, you can check a lot of trade paperbacks out right from your library, and it's digital. So people are looking for resources to pick up some of these trades. And of course, the next one you have miniseries, it was Spider-Geddon, which whenever they first announce these, they're always like, well, I'm always like, man, not another freaking Spider-Geddon title with a bunch of different. But then they always have these characters that catch fire and get hot, and people, next thing you know, you got 7th printing of Edge of Spider-Verse and stuff like that. But yeah, tell us about Spider-Geddon.
Right, so Spider-Geddon is like you said, it's another series that honestly there really wasn't a ton of reader buzz on. Variants, first appearances sort of drove this one. And I think that miniseries, both this one and the next one, Infinity Wars, are another opportunity for people that I really can advocate to people to pick up the trade paperbacks, because a lot of the reason why people are sour on miniseries is the limited run, the limited shelf life speculation-wise. And with series like this, you're able to pick them up, sit down in one reading, one sitting, and read the entire series. You don't have to worry about getting burnt on the individual cover price. You'll come out better financially buying the trade. So if it's not a speculation thing, if it's just a reader thing, most miniseries I'll put off and I'll wait till the trade comes out, sit down and read them in one shot.
Unless they got really nice variants.
Right. Well, that's a whole different ballgame. Yeah.
But yeah. So like you said, the next one on there was I keep scrolling up past the freaking was the Infinity Wars, and I like this one just for. I mean, I like the story, but what was it? Mike Deodato Jr.'s art in that whole series was freaking fantastic. Like there was times where I stopped reading the book and was just staring at the art because it was crazy. Of course, that's just me and not getting to read a lot of comics at times, and then all of a sudden I get to read it and go, "Wow, this is great."
No, I agree. I think Deodato, he does. We talked about it a couple weeks ago with the Guardians variant. He does a great job on his like big multi-person covers. So I think his interior art is incredible. So I agree. Infinity Wars, I think, is another one that you don't hear a lot of readers talking about, though. So it's a great opportunity to go back and check. It had a lot of first appearance buzz, and then the big letdown when the reveal, and it turned out to be Gamora and that whole ordeal. So if you're kind of over the whole speculation of it, here's a great chance to pick it up, sit down, and read it. Right.
So then also you had a couple omnibuses in here, and the first one was the Captain Marvel omnibus.
Yeah, so this one with the direct market variant, which most people will see at their LCS. The cover was the Miss Marvel #1. Right. I think the cover that you've got shown there is I think that's the one you'd see at like bookstores and stuff like that. Yeah. So you got
I wish I would have found the other one because I'm not a big fan of Amanda Connor's Captain Marvel.
See, and this is something I'm just now getting into, like looking at the value of trades.
Right.
I don't know which of the two is the one that you'd want to go for as far as like which one is printed less. I saw a lot of people picking up the kind of the classic cover, the direct market, but that's because most of us shop at the LCS.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'll be interesting to see long term which of these two kind of has more value. But it's like we talked about, a lot of people, you may be behind on Captain Marvel movies coming out. if you're a super fan and you want to be one of those people. I like going into movies and not knowing the stories. I know so much about so many characters. It's kind of fun to walk in and not be kind of up to date. But if that's not you, if you want to know everything and you want to get caught up and you don't want to go hit back issue bins and pay a fortune for those early Miss Marvels, this is a great opportunity to go ahead and grab that first volume. And really, the price isn't that bad. You see omnibuses go for multiple hundreds of dollars, and I've seen this one on eBay for like $85.
Yeah, and you're talking about movies. One of the things I like if you're a comic reader is you go into the movies with a bunch of other people, and it's like just seems like some common character, but once they say their name and you've read the comic, you know where the story should be moving with that character, and everyone else has no idea, and you're just like, yeah, I can't wait to see where this is gonna go. But yeah, so go Captain Marvel. Next one you had on there was the Phil Jimenez Wonder Woman hardcover omnibus, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that's another example where a lot of people may have wanted to read that Wonder Woman series, but the volume of Wonder Woman that is covered in this omnibus happens to also be the volume where you get that iconic Adam Hughes cover run. So you're looking like the 170s, 180s, 190s, and that area where you're looking at $10 covers minimum at retail most places. Yeah, you could still find them in bins for $2, $3. But, speculators have been picking those up for years and flipping those for anywhere from 10 to 20 to 30 for certain covers, 40. So when you start looking at certain runs like this, where you have kind of the high dollar books in that run, that's where kind of more value I see in the trade that, I don't mind reading floppy copies, but if you're interested in reading that run, going back and getting those floppies is going to be expensive. Even trades sell well because they feature Adam Hughes cover art. So being able to grab this at that kind of price point is a good value.
Right. So I also want to touch Mark Snowden just put in the chat, if you suggested 3 series for a new comic reader to start reading, what would the 3 titles be? I think it also depends on whether they want superheroes or like image style.
Right. Yeah, there's so many, because that's tough because there's so many questions you have to ask somebody.
Yeah.
I think comic book stores get that every day. I think they do a very varying job of answering that question.
Yeah. Do they like science fiction?
Right. The key is like, what type of movies do you like? What type of music do you like? If we were talking Marvel, if you were talking right now, you could go say Venom, Guardians, and Immortal Hulk, and you're going to get 3 extremely quality, well-written series. But you could probably see 10 or 12 series listed that people would argue. Yeah. If you're just into comics, I would go for the classic runs, but that's me.
Yeah, and then I'd go for some, like me, I was thinking like some of the darker stuff, like Garth Ennis, Punisher.
Yep.
One of my favorite runs in all of comics is Jeff Johns' Green Lantern. And then,
me too.
But yeah, you usually like, and I'll sit there and watch people when I go into my comic store, like the new people that are getting into comics, and watch the guy Sean that's working there and ask those types of questions, like trying to pin down. And he's usually really good at finding something to recommend. And I like how he always recommends trades rather than, hey, just pick this issue up where you get 32 pages of part of the story.
The key, I think that's the key, is you got to sell somebody on the trade first, because they've got to read it, they've got to like it. Then to say, well, now I like it so much I want to collect it.
And Comic Cats is saying Black Badge, but definitely
he's going hard. I tell you what, he's going hard for Black Badge so much that now I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. So yeah, you got a new reader in Black Badge there.
Right.
That's who does Black Badge? I forget. It's not IDW. No. It's like I can almost see the logo in the corner of the comic for it. But the Morello Tunes is recommending Immortal Hulk, Venom, and number 3. Dan Slott Spider-Man. No, I'm kidding. But so yeah, that kind of wraps up this week's Bolo list. Like I said, don't forget the CBSI comicbookinvest.com. We got the Knights of the Golden Sun variant up there if you guys want to purchase that. It's $25 shipped, so there's no extra shipping for it. 150 copies, what we have to sell, right?
Right, correct.
And the 250 total. Mad Cave kept 50. We're doing 50 for Was it 50 for giveaways?
Yeah, we're doing 50 for various giveaways. So like we talked about, we're doing the giveaway here this week. We will probably do another at some point, but definitely tune in to everywhere you see CBSI because we are going to be doing giveaways all over the place.
Yeah,
You talked
Instagram.
about Instagram, Facebook. You talked about the Tales from the Flip Side podcast. Comic Tom is going to be running one, I think, with the Hot 10 video.
Yep.
So you're going to see contests all over the place, and this book will sell out. So
yeah, I bought a copy today actually. So, but other than that, so my weekly picks video will be releasing tomorrow, probably around midday Eastern time. I usually try to get it done today, but super busy, so it'll release tomorrow. This coming Monday, Tales from the Flip Side, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. It's on the Tales from the Flip Side YouTube channel. I'm in that with a bunch of other great guys. We got Ben Stein in there. If you guys do watch the CBSI Hot 10 list, Ben Stein's the one who creates that. We talk comics, cards, video games, toys, all types of good stuff. That's why it's kind of called Flip Side, because it's not just comics. But make sure you're following Jack, a.k.a. Mr. Bolo, Comic Book Invest, and Comic Book Invest CBSI on Instagram. Simpleman's Comics is on Instagram. But definitely appreciate everyone getting into the chat. Love the conversation. It's definitely improving. If you guys have suggestions for how we can improve this show, any different content you want us to add, by all means, let us know. And you want to recap the comment contest for the giveaway we're going to do for the Golden Sun?
Yeah, what we're looking for is throw us a comment after the video is posted. Let us know what you want to see from us in our variant program going forward. We really want to offer some cool exclusives. We want to we don't just want to be one of these people who are just making variants. We're not doing it just to do it. So we want to do something that the community really wants. We want to add value to the community. So we want to hear from you. We want to know, what type of publishers do you want to see us work with? What type of artists do you want to see us work with? What are some variant ideas that you've always wanted to see done that haven't been done? And we are listening. We are reading these comments. So drop a comment. We're going to pick one comment and announce it next week, and we'll give away the winner. And maybe we'll pick a few comments that we like and feature them, talk about them next week. But definitely do that. And also, let us know in the comments too. Brian and I have done this is separate from the contest, but we'd love to hear some, like you said, feedback. Brian and I have done a couple one-off live streams. Are there any topics you'd like to see us talk about in a future live stream? We've talked about variants. We've talked about comics on Instagram. Let us know what you'd like to see, and then we can definitely make that happen.
Yes. And I will say, Nick from SlabHeroes.com is planning on being on this stream here shortly. Try to get him on this week. He's actually like half the rest of us. There's something going around, man. It's like freaking Stephen King's The Stand. Everyone's got like colds, and so.
I was sick earlier in the week myself.
Yeah, but he went out and was excited, man. He got a new webcam, new mic, so we're definitely gonna get him on. Hopefully it'll work well. I haven't done it with 3 people in the live stream, so I gotta be careful how I phrase that. But yeah, we'll see how the technical issues go. But anyways, we'll work through it. But appreciate you guys coming out. Jack, you get the last word.
I just want to say thank you, everybody. And again, comicbookinvest.com right now. Knights of the Golden Sun variant is available now, selling fast and sold out everywhere. So this is your chance to get in while the getting's good.
You heard them. All right. Hey, happy Valentine's Day, guys. And we'll see you next Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern.